Hi, my name is Sangita Kumar, and I'm the CEO and founder of Be the Change Consulting. Join me in Liberated AF, the workplace revolution. This is a podcast where we get to explore what does it take to become the organization that we want to work for. So what is that? The organization I want to work for, it supports my humanity and makes me feel like I belong. It's a place that isn't racist, it isn't extractive. It works for the boomers and the Gen Alphas. There's space for everyone to bring their genius to work. Don't we want to become that? And don't we want to create that? So I have been studying organizational dynamics for over 20 years, and I love working with teams stuck in an entrenched challenge to bring clarity to diverse perspectives and look for ways that human-centered systems. We're going to tell stories, we're going to answer questions, we're going to offer strategies on this podcast. Together, we are going to become something new. Let's go.
Hey there, Sangita. How are you feeling, friend?
Hi, I'm doing all right today.
Doing all right today. Say more, say less. Have you read the news? Have you not checked the news?
Yeah, I'm not reading the news on a daily basis. Yeah, so I'm just like choosing when to open up an app of course my phone is like giving me like
Yeah.
headlines that sometimes I'm like gleeful and sometimes I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
what a bold move. And I'm trying to just think about where can I put my energy and my efforts and where like too much knowledge is actually going to like drown me.
Yeah.
What are
And
you
it's,
doing?
well, yes to everything you're saying. And at the same time, I also feel like the censorship in our media, I don't even know if we're getting the information that we need anymore. I was talking to my mom in one of our calls, and, we're located in different areas now. She's in the States and I'm not. And she was telling me, she's like, this is reminding me a lot of Vietnam. Like, they banned our books. She's like, we didn't even have rights as women. And she's like, there's a level of censorship. So she was like, there's something that is feeling very, very familiar. And so where I'm at, I'm not in the States. I'm combing through the international news. And of course, there's a different lens, a different approach of how people see America. And it's fascinating. And like you, I'm trying to be grounded. Some days are super overwhelming, and some days I'm charged with a lot of emotions, watching how grown ass adults are failing our young people, just period, failing our young people.
Yeah.
And it made me think about, so you and I, we do the same but different work. I work with the young folks, and you work with a lot of the older young folks, a lot of different leaders.
Once young folks.
Once young folks, still young. And so I want to dedicate this episodes and hopefully many, many, many more of our episodes to talk about what are some recommendations you could have for leaders. And I'm just curious, like, as you're sitting in this moment right now, like, just tell me, why is inclusion such a threat? Like, why is this happening? Like, organizations pulling away their DEI efforts? Like, tell me, educate me, what's going on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, yeah, like I think there is something, right, if we watch what this administration is rolling out and how they're targeting their like attacks, it really reveals like kind of like what's in this like conservative playbook.
Yeah.
And it's not even like conservative, right? We're moving from conservative into like a fascist playbook. And the attack on like, education, right? Shutting down the Department of Education and going after like critical race theory a while ago, going after universities and their ability to like actually teach to what they think is, conscionable or right, or even to invoke a debate, right? Like, so there's like some attack happening on education, on our ideas of like, on learning, right? So not even like what you're being educated on, but learning it overall, and then critical thinking, and then free thinking. I feel like there's like a real threat to like this. There's like, I think maybe we were on the brink of some next level enlightenment. It doesn't feel like it because our, just from the world around us, like what I dream of as like a post capitalist, repaired, holistic world that we can all thrive in. Like, I don't think it's very hard to do. And I don't think we're actually very far from doing it. But it requires sort of like a consciousness shift in our cultural humanity, and an idea of like, oh, these material gains are not actually the thing that gives us the most sustainability and happiness. I think that like kind of and then this idea of like collaboration, like deeper connection, more people that feel like they fit under a bigger tent. Those are all the like qualities of inclusion that I think in equity and inclusion projects move towards, right? It's not just diversity to have diverse people like in a space together. I heard this thing, someone said, plantations, like slave plantations were diverse. There were diverse people there. So we're not looking for diversity where like we all just are like we exist. Like we're actually looking for inclusion where things are designed so that everyone can thrive. And I think it is a threat because if we really started to believe that as a people, like we will really quickly topple the systems that are in place today. Like I think if people like truly thought, oh, we can all be really, really well and healthy and like, eat good food and have healthcare when we need it, and um, have different places to worship that supports, the spirituality that we want to bring or the ways that we want to be connected to each other and to our people. And there's lots of possibilities and lots of ways to exist, and we can all still be okay. That idea that there are many ways is connected, right? The abundance of that thinking is connected to an abundance of material resources, which is then connected to like, how do you set up our systems, our structures, our people, our relationships, so that we're, designed to experience that kind of abundance. And I just think that that has to be at the heart of what they're scared of. And they're trying to make us scared. They're taking that fear of like, we don't want people to think there's enough for everyone. And they're replacing it, inside of us, right? That sense of like possibility and dream thinking. I think they want it to be replaced with like fear, which makes you think short term, scarcity, which makes you like hoard everything, right? Hoard your resources, but also hoard your generosity, hoard your sense of spirit, and become smaller, right? So if I feel afraid and I get smaller, then I become voiceless, and then I can release my power, or I give up my power. And then it's not very hard to take someone's power if they don't believe they have any.
The way that you describe inclusion is so beautiful. Like as you were talking, I could see it, and you use words like abundance, and it is quite lovely, and it's enough. We have enough. And it makes me think of like, have you ever, this happens with young people and also grown adults, when you're in a line to get something, let's say there's like you're getting there's food that's going to be served, there's more than enough, and everyone's standing in a line, and someone cuts into a line, and the person behind is like, go ahead, you can go ahead, and you're wondering, why is that person not upset? And they're like, there's more than enough for us, right? I'm going to get there. And they have this abundance thinking because there's something in them that is making them feel safe, and they know that they're going to get that resource. But then you've stood in line where people cut, right? And they know that they see that there's enough, but they're like, I'm going to get there first. I'm going to need it. I'm going to need it. I need to take 8, right? And so that idea of scarcity competing for resource, I feel like what's happening right now is we're programmed and socialized to feel that. that abundance is not a word that we can use. Like, I actually think abundance might be one of the words that they're cutting out right now that you can't use, right? Along with diversity, equity, inclusion is abundance. And it connects me back to everything that you're saying makes me think about what my mom has shared with her experience in her home country and where she came here for freedom. And how that tunnel thinking of there's not enough. We're going to tell you what you need, how much you can have, when you need it. And so then you trust that one voice. So then, Sangita, what are the leaders saying in the field right now? Like, you've been doing so much rich work. Like, there's just been so much movement with a lot of leaders in corporations, philanthropy, nonprofit, for-profit, right? Doing liberatory leadership. What are some of them saying right now? Like, I imagine that there's a couple of things that's happening. And what are your recommendations for some of the leaders who are like, I'm tired. Like, this is hard work to start. It's hard work and it's hard work. And now it's gotten harder.
Yeah. I mean, just to go back to that sense of like abundance, right? Like to let someone cut in front of you in line, like there's the actual abundance, right? Do I know that I will, there will be like whatever it is I'm in line for, right? There will still be food at the end of this line when I get there, or will it all be taken away? Or do I have enough time, right? I'm rushing to like go pick up my kid and I don't have time to let somebody cut today, right? So there's also like situational like context, and then there's the sense of privilege, right? If it does run out, where else can I go? Which then it's like it becomes this thing where only the generous or the already abundant can access that spirit of abundance. And so just to say, like, there are so many people that are actually experiencing scarcity. And so to have an abundance mindset and a generosity mindset in scarcity, those are the things that I think my mom really know about.
Yeah.
Right? Like when I let someone cut in front of me at Safeway, it's because I don't have anywhere to go and it doesn't actually cost me anything.
Right.
But I know that like my mom tells stories of like being on their last days of like rice in the house in India, and someone comes to the door and they say that I'm hungry and they still share their food. Like that is not a muscle that I've been practicing. Like generosity and courage in the face of my own scarcity.
That's right.
Where my like needs are not guaranteed. It's like not the philanthropist's generosity where they're giving away like a certain amount because they know they have enough. I think one of the like almost spiritual muscles that we're going to have to build in this time is how do you like, where do you access like those depths of resource when you're not sure about your own? And I think it has to come from an ideology that I will not be okay if you're not okay. If I get to the front of that line and I take 7, whatever, cartons of eggs and people behind me don't have enough, like I should not feel like I am going to be okay. Like I should feel something when I eat those eggs, thinking about the people who don't have enough eggs because I got 7 cartons. Do you know what I mean? Like so there's an ideology, right, of what's happening in that line of what is allowing us, what are we leaning into when we're deciding how to behave with each other? When our systems are threatening, like to destabilize the services and the resources that, allow us to be generous, right? So just like one more thought there.
Yeah.
And I think that is showing up in our leadership. So I think, post George Floyd, the world really amplified, or at least the United States started to pay attention to these issues that many of us were talking about and screaming about for a long, long time, right? So it's like there was a consciousness that started to like permeate, whether people really understood it or believed in it or not, but like there was an amplified narrative that equity and inclusion were important, and that the way that you got there was by expanding the quality of diversity in your own life, and to like reflect, like, who are the people who are different than me in my circle? Like, who are the people who listen to different kinds of music, or who eat different kinds of food, or who have lived in a different country, or who speak a different language? And what, like, how can that, like, proximity to people who grew up in different places actually enrich my life, right? Not from an extractive place, not like I want to take, the food from your culture and like eat it myself, but not know anything about you or the stories, or like where it comes from, or what that food represents, or under what conditions it was eaten, right? So like there's the extractive like appreciation of diversity versus, no, I want to have diversity in my life in an inclusive way. I want it to be like webbed in and woven into how I live my life, because there's something enriching about it, which is a different kind of ideology. And so now I think we have leaders who were like, a lot of leaders. I'm kind of seeing a couple of different like profiles of folks. I'm seeing some folks who are like, yeah, I felt like emboldened, or like this was the right direction to go in because of the amplification of what was happening in our media, and like, the narratives and even the trends, right? Corporate trends. We often look to corporations as though they're setting the path towards something.
Right.
It was like, oh, look at Target selling all of these like cute journals and mugs for Black History Month. Or look at Target putting out all these t-shirts and outfits for Pride. And
Yeah.
now what are they doing? They're losing billions of dollars because they took this stance that they don't care about. They don't really care about these communities, right? They're kind of showing like, we did it as a profit. We saw a market, we sold to that market, and now we're seeing that market is devalued. We're devaluing that market, and so we're going to move away, and they're going to lose a bunch of money for it, and they're going to make something up somewhere else, right? It has to be, right? They're corporations that are calculating from a money place. So like corporations are not our trendsetters. They're not the people that we should be watching to say, oh, Walmart is announcing Black Lives Matters in its halls. Great. But I think those of us that have been in this game for a long time, we're like, let's not put too much stock there. But that continues to be like where our people kind of go for like, how do we know what the beacons of like right and wrong is? And it's like we're following Target and Walmart or Costco. Like that's a little risky, right? That's like a little like we could easily be misguided there. And so I see leaders who were like emboldened because of the trends that are now like, I'm not sure anymore. Like my belief in this is being shaken because the messaging is so confusing. And that makes sense, right? Like if you were plugged into those messages and now the messages are changing, then you can be confused.
Yeah.
I think people who, we also get, so there are some folks like that are like, I don't understand, like, help me. How do I respond to the narrative that's out there? Like, what are the talking points to combat these, the rights talking points? So there are some people that need that kind of coaching, and we're trying to work on messaging and comms. And that goes like to a certain like level, right? That can take you so far. Because what they didn't get to was like, oh, my life will actually, and my organization will actually be worse off if I don't have, the diversity of talent. If I'm not actually trying to like create a place that lots of different kinds of people can thrive, because it helps enrich my product design. It helps retention. It helps me attract, the younger folks, keep the older folks, like multi-generational, multiracial, multi-ethnic spaces are more creative. They're more flexible. They're more fluid. They're actually more resilient. They can withstand change. They can withstand like the tide turning, because there's so many different kinds of wisdom in there. But it takes work to actually make those places feel connected. So I get that, right? Like, I get that it might be easier to connect with people or to even lead an organization or a team of folks who are more like you. It's harder when there's more diversity, but it's better. Like the outcomes are better, and that's been proven over and over and over again in case studies. So I think leaders who didn't hold like the true, like, oh yeah, this is the value, now they're confused, right? So this moment can shake your conviction. But there's also so many people that are like, no, this is another trend in this moment, and we could change the language. We could call it DEI, or we could call it, communities of belonging. We could call it our inclusion initiative. We could just call it organizational development. But we're going to do the work to create organizational cultures where lots of different people can fit and lots of different people can thrive. And those folks, like, yeah, I'm impressed every day with like the courage and the conviction. And then when those two are in place, I think where we can support is we can build skills. We can come in to do like really concrete and tactical skill building in how do you become more transparent in your decision making? How do you reflect on where like you actually are trying to own a decision because you think you can make a decision quicker, faster, better by yourself, and where it actually makes more sense to like bring more people into a decision-making process and be more collaborative as a way um, to design better ideas. Maybe it slows you down in the design phase, but it speeds up in the implementation phase. Like there are still people who are doing that work, which is where Be the Change always thought equity and inclusion work goes, right? It's about creating highly resilient and therefore highly efficient organizations that are
Mm.
that are sustainable.
Yeah, yeah. I I wonder if that everything that you said there, I feel like another recommendations that I got through your share out right now is for leaders to do that initial internal self-awareness of asking like what is extractive diversity and what is the
Mm,
diversity? Like because you're just sharing all parts of that. And I think those those particular ideology is like where am I what am I doing and why? What's the value and where does it fall? And where has it been that and you're absolutely right. It's because the corporations are bigger, they're louder, they have more money, they're like in your face. And so then what happens is they become the compass and the blueprint for so many people. They got the money. They got the money, so then people are going to listen. And what we're finding is they're not necessarily right all the time. So I really love that, even though you didn't explicitly say it, but I do think like one of the recommendations is to to think and reflect on those two particular ideology is where are we feeling that the diversity feels extractive and where is it truly inclusive diversity?
mm,
What else?
yeah.
What else? What's another thing? Like I think, okay, this has been popping around where leaders who, are seeing the value in true inclusive spaces, like you've mentioned, where there are a diversity of ideas and cultures and inputs, because then it just becomes expansive and there's an abundance. But now they're getting labeled as, oh, there's the DEI hires. You're hiring the DEI hires. And so this is the reason why it's not happening. What would you recommend for the leaders who are now sitting within their organization and their corporation where people are now trying to blame it on them that they're moving towards inclusive diversity? Are you experiencing any of that?
I mean, we've been seeing that, right? Like this idea that yeah, I think a lot of people enter the equity and inclusion work from a place of like, let's start counting how many people are in our company and what is their racial diversity, what is their gender diversity, right? It's a very common HR practice is you disaggregate your people data and then you're like, oh, we need more of X in these places, let's hire for that. But if you go for we need more of X versus this is the expertise that we need, and we want to try to find folks who have this expertise. And then it might require like really thinking how, because it's not about what is the identity of the people, right, who are leading. It's the quality of what they're bringing that is going to like, that will actually support their staying power in your organization. And it requires some thinking, some careful thinking to say,
if I think a woman would be better in this position, or if women are missing, if women are missing in my organization, what is the impact on me? Like what is that costing me? What am I losing out? And
Everything.
if you don't know how to answer that question and then you go hire a bunch of women, then you're not going to look for the things that they can bring. You're going to expect them to lead like the people who are already there, and you're not going to gain anything. And they're probably not going to be as good at doing that, because we do lead differently. Women lead differently than men. We are socialized differently. We walk through the world differently. We have a different like attacks on our sense of safety. Which means that we make different recommendations. It means we're just holding a different set of criteria. And that doesn't mean we can't also think about, profitability and holding people accountable, and right, like all of those things are still there. And it's like the way that you can get there might be a little bit different based on gender identity and how you've been socialized and where you grew up and what part of the world you grew up in. If we don't get clear about what is the expertise that we're missing, and then how do I hire for that expertise, it's going to look like a DEI hire. It's going to look like you actually looked at 3 people and you picked the one that had an identity that was missing versus a skill set that was needed. And if we're not clear what is the skill set that's needed, or what do we want to insert into our team, then that person comes in and we don't know how to introduce them, right? So I was just telling somebody this in an organization. If you hire somebody new and you send out an email, right? This is like a very common practice. Hey team, I want to welcome Fong Marcolongo. We just hired her to do X role. Fong brings 25 years of this. Ask her about her perspectives on A, B, or C. These are the kinds of things that we want to see more of in the organization. And it's why I'm trusting in her to lead us into the next phase of our future, right? So when you bring in someone, let's say they are they are someone who represents a set of beliefs or values, and you know that they can actually lead in that way that your team needs. If we don't make that clear to the people around them, how will they understand how to like slot this person into the organization?
And they're going to expect that person should know everything, and when they don't, immediately.
Yeah. Or they're going to expect that person's going to do their job the way the last person did their job.
Right.
And it's like, no, that's not why we hired this person. So one of the things I've done over the years with leaders is help them sort of build that story of what is the expertise that you're looking for, and then how do I introduce new hires to the rest of my team, so that because we can anticipate, if I don't say anything and this person looks like someone who doesn't typically work here, they're going to build the story that means it's a diversity hire. We have been incepted to think that. And so we have to do the work to combat that narrative, and then build a culture that says, these are the skill sets and the talents that we want. And here's how you get it from them. Build some connection, build some relationship. I want everyone to like go out to lunch with this person, or invite them out to coffee over the next 3 weeks or in the next month. And here are 3 things you can talk about. Like, if we don't like set people up to build relational trust across difference, and then give like some prompts for how do you enter that conversation, that person is going to get isolated. They will feel all the ways that they don't fit, and other people around them will feel the ways that they don't fit. And then the fact that they don't fit is going to make it feel awkward. And then we're going to have to put a name on top of that awkwardness. And the only name that I think our culture has been taught is you're a DEI hire.
Right.
So that's like one way, right, to combat that. And then I mean, I'm sure there are many others, but
I think what we could do, because you and I had talked about this, and maybe we'll save this for the next episode, was what happens when we do everything that you just said here, and that we have a set of values and skill sets that we're hoping to bring expansiveness to our team. And there will be some things that person might not have. And so what's the responsibility of the organization to also be transparent, to say X amount of time in 3 months, We are going to support you to skill yourself up to this level, or you're going to get XY training so then that you can get into here. Because I think one argument people have is like, when you hire, you're trying to catch all, you're trying to hire the unicorn, right? And then the one thing that they don't have, and if they are a person of color, that is actually another invitation for this person is not the right fit and they are a DEI hire. So I think we definitely can offer more structural support and strategies that I know that you've done with leaders around this particular area. And there's just so much more. And I think there has to be a part two. There has to be a part two to this episode. And so, we would love to hear from you all. We would love to hear what's coming up for you, as we are navigating this time, and that there is a true attack on our beliefs and our values of true inclusion, right? So we want to hear from you. So all the information will be left in the show notes, and tell us what you think, and we'll include it in our next episode. We hope you're able to pull out something that works for you for this time. Until the next time, y'all. Toodles.
We hope this conversation provided helpful insight and inspired you to create a more inclusive and liberated workplace. If you enjoyed today's discussion, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with your friends and colleagues. Your support makes a huge difference in helping us reach more listeners like you. We love to hear your thoughts on today's topic. Connect with us on social media and drop a comment. You can find all the links in the show notes. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.